Good. Welcome back to another episode of the Friday Night Live with the Sanchez Show. As always, I'm your host, Eric Sanchez, aka Legend of Two Games. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the Sanchez Show over on YouTube and Spotify. Make sure you are following me across all social media platforms. You see the handle right there. As always, appreciate the love and the support. A lot of great questions and comments in the comment section, so we're going to get to that in just a moment. I want to start off by reminding you guys not only to subscribe to the Sanchez Show, but also subscribe to Real Fans, Real Talk. We'll be back in a couple of days, giving you guys just a breakdown and a recap of what's going on in sports this week. Also, on next week's Friday Night Live, make sure, as I keep telling you guys, subscribe, but tune in, because I'm going to introduce an opportunity to win tickets to an upcoming NBA game. I'm working out the kinks, but it's a giveaway that I'm putting together. And I know everyone's not in the same city because I know we got followers all over the place. But if you win this it's not even going to be raffle style. It'll be kind of trivia style. You win the trivia, I'll work with the winner of that to make sure I can get you 2 tickets to an NBA game in your city. If you're not in a city near or close enough to an NBA game, we'll work something out from there. So I'm working out the kinks, but make sure you tune in next Friday. This upcoming week, I'm going to try to tease the show and promote the show to remind people to tune in so that way you can find out how you can win some tickets. But yeah, we got a lot to get into. It is August 23rd. Football is officially, a week and a half away, right? It starts on the 3rd of September. So I hope everyone had a great week. Hope everyone is ready for their weekend as summer starts to wind down and we get into NFL season. But let's get to the comments, man. I believe Ron was the first one in here, so we're going to get to Ron. I'm just checking to see some of the comments we got in here for right now. I might do a little bit of both, Kyrie. We're going to see. So Will Gordon already let me know he's on the road. I don't think he's going to be joining. Trip Young said he would let me know what's going on. I know Trip has been busy recording. Shout out to him. And we may get my main man, Vernon, today. He did hit me up earlier in the comment section about joining the live. So we're going to see. Guys, fellas, hit me up. Y'all already know. The link is out there. There's always an open invitation over here on the Sanchez Show. So we'll get to some stuff. Kyrie, as you mentioned, we may wait, but we'll get to some stuff, and if they join, we can always circle back. How about that? Let's start with this one, though, because this is the appropriate way to start it off. As I mentioned, it is August 23rd. Today is Kobe Bean Bryant's 46th birthday. Would have been his 46th. Still a baby, damn near in life. For all of you, what's some of your favorite memories of Kobe and where he is all time? Shout out to Ron, because like I said, this is the most appropriate way to start the show on this specific date. I'll say and though it's still very fresh for a lot of people, I know for me, I remember where I was at when I heard the news, the tragic news, that Sunday afternoon. I thought it was a lie. I thought it was some sick Twitter joke. I didn't want to believe it. Then hearing the news that his daughter was with him made it even more painful. I also remember watching that first Laker game after. And I remember one of the things that Trip Young and I, we were still in studio at the time because this was pre-COVID. I remember saying in one of our episodes that after Kobe passed for that Laker season, that everyone would be a Laker fan. Everyone would be rooting for the Lakers to win because of what Kobe meant to the game and what he meant to so many people, especially for this generation. We wanted to see his legacy and his memory honored the right way. So I know a lot of us were rooting for the Lakers to do well that season, and ultimately they did end up winning the NBA Finals in the bubble, which it took a crazy twist in a month and a half after he passed. But favorite Kobe memory, game-winning shot that he hit against Phoenix when Phoenix was the 1 seed and the Lakers were the 8th seed. This was after Shaq had left, and there was a lot of pressure on Kobe to perform. Nash was the MVP that year. Phoenix was down in the series, had a chance to tie the series, and then Kobe hits a dramatic shot in LA. I believe Lakers go up 3-1 in that series. They lose the series. Phoenix was the better team, but the fact that as the AFC, Kobe, as we expected him, went down on the shield. That's one of my favorite memories. Kobe at the Garden. I remember this was 2009, 2010. I remember Braun came into the Garden, had a big night. This had to be the 2009-2010 season prior to Braun leaving, because this was Braun's last year during his first Cleveland stint. Braun had a big game in the Garden, and then 2 nights later when Kobe and the Lakers came through, Kobe top that night. I think Kobe went for 50 that night. I can double check, but it's one of those that always sticks out to me. And then him winning that NBA Finals against the Celtics was kind of the full circle moment, because we knew about the first three and we knew how great he was, and we knew about the one against Orlando, but he had to get his revenge against Boston for what they had done 2 seasons prior. And he didn't shoot well in Game 7, the 6 for 24, but he turned into the ultimate leader in the second half of that game. He knew the shots weren't falling, and so he starts to distribute, become more of a leader, and not force the offense, allowing other people to kind of carry them in that moment. He knew all the attention was going to be on him, and so he distributed, and he became the leader he needed to be. I thought before that he had been a leader, but that was one of the moments that always sticks out to me, that he showed people, I can beat you a multitude of ways, which was amazing. Man, and then the Redeem Team. You know, it's so many Kobe moments. Those are some of them that stick out to me, though. Kobe being the leader of the Redeem Team, and then seeing the documentary and seeing how Carmelo said we had to reach out to Kobe and we needed him after what happened in 04 and 06. Kobe taking on that challenge, setting the tone. We all know about the screen against Gasol. So many moments with Kobe, man, that we can reference, that I can think about. But those are some of them that stick out to me. But again, happy birthday to the late, great Kobe Bryant. And where does he rank all time? For me, I would probably put him somewhere in a range of 7, 8, 9 all time, somewhere around there. It's very difficult for him to be in the top 5 for me, because as I've said before, he's always going to be the number 2 shooting guard of all time. In terms of resume, and I know there's a question regarding Bron and Kobe later that we're going to get to, and we'll probably get to that next. Kobe's the more skilled player. LeBron is the more accomplished player. So it's always tough for him to be above LeBron, in my opinion. Shout out to Tyson, because I see that question from Tyson. We're going to get to that one in a second. So for me, I got MJ, Bron, Kareem, Magic as my 4. Wilt, Tim Duncan, I think, is ahead of him. And then I think that next range is Kobe. So like I said, anywhere from 7, 8, 9. Kobe, Shaq, Hakeem, Bird, Bill Russell, however you want to jumble that up. I think that's kind of that next group of guys from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 through 12. So he's somewhere in that range. He's definitely top 10. I like this one, Kevin. Is Kobe Bryant and Magic Johnson the greatest Laker ever? Many have Magic ahead of Kobe and all-time players. So wouldn't that make him the best Laker? This again goes back to resume. Kobe's resume is stronger than Magic's, and it's not Magic's fault. We know why Magic's career was cut short. But I mean, and it's not, and I think it's just stronger just because of the other areas. They're both 5-time champions. Magic did play in more NBA finals. He played in one more NBA final than Kobe did, but everything else goes Kobe's way. And I think Kobe was a little bit more skilled as a player, total player. So I would put Kobe slightly ahead of him, but on my list of all time, I don't know if you ever quote when I said this before, Kevin. I always like to list the top 5 based off of what 5 I would want to bring to the court. So that's why, if you notice, like I said, it's a point guard, a shooting guard, it's Bron, it's big men. Kobe slightly ahead of Magic as a Laker, but to me, Magic, I have him 4 all time. Hope that makes sense. Let's see what else we got. Tyson. There was one from Tyson here, and that kind of goes to this question as well, this statement where he mentions Game 7. Game 7 on the line. You got prime Kobe, prime LeBron. Who do you want for Game 7? I would say Kobe. Kobe's the more skilled player, and that's no knock on LeBron James. His resume is stronger. That's why I have LeBron ahead of Kobe in terms of all-time player list. But in a one-game situation, I want Kobe. Now, the rest of the team matters as well, because if I already have Mike, I probably don't need Kobe. But if I'm starting, if you're telling me I got to start the team, creating the team around either Kobe or LeBron, it's probably going to be Kobe. Just a more skilled player, especially in his prime, could beat you in so many different ways. LeBron's best years, in my opinion, are the 4 years in Miami. And even then, he was a limited offensive player. He couldn't beat you from the perimeter. Now he's a much better shooter. But those Miami days, you saw, that's how Dallas was able to beat them. That's how San Antonio gave him trouble. That's why a lot of those Miami series went as long as they did sometimes, because even though they were the better team, you could game plan to slow down LeBron. You could never stop him, but you could slow him down. You could force him into a jump shooter and take away some of his things. So it's tougher in that way. I got Kobe, like I said, in a one-off, game 7. Let's see what else we got here. Shout out to Pooh. I see your comment. I'm going to get to that one in a second. We're going to go through some of this basketball, and we'll rotate the football, and then we'll take the questions that they come through again. Shout out to all the supporters. We greatly appreciate it. Miguel said, Carmelo says he wouldn't trade Olympic gold for an NBA ring. It's tough. I probably would, especially in Carmelo's case, because Carmelo has been a part of multiple Olympic teams that have won a gold medal. So you would think he would want to give up one of those for an NBA ring. But Carmelo is a winner no matter what. I mean, he won at the college level. He's won at an international level. He just never won in the NBA. And maybe he feels like for that reason, I don't want to sacrifice anything. I wouldn't want to trade something for something I wasn't able to just do on my own. But I am a little surprised by that statement. Like I said, he's won multiple Olympics. You would think you could trade one for an NBA ring and be happy with it. But there are a lot of guys who say they wouldn't do it different. We've heard Barkley say that as well, that he wouldn't trade anything for an NBA ring. So that's just maybe the mindset of that athlete. Who knows? Let's see. What else we got? Ron. Isaiah Thomas recently said that the Chicago Bulls without Michael Jordan were good enough to win 1, maybe 2 titles. Thoughts? And seems like shade of MJ. Of course it's shade, Ron. You know that. Because he could say they were good enough. There are a lot of teams that are good enough to win an NBA championship and don't. The Steve Nash Phoenix Suns were good enough to win a championship, but they didn't. That's just one of the most recent. The Sacramento Kings of the early 2000s were good enough, but they didn't. The Portland Trail Blazers of the late 90s were good enough, but they didn't. A lot of teams every season are good enough to win an NBA championship, but the truly great teams find a way to get through the regular season, get through the playoffs, and win that actual championship. So Isaiah ain't saying much. Now, and it is shade to MJ because it kind of diminishes like how great MJ was for the Bulls and what he did, winning back-to-back three-peats and 6 overall championships in 8 years. Pardon me, I had to take a sip of my wine there. But they might have been good enough. We know that year in '94 when they lost to the Knicks in the second round of the playoffs, they went to Game 7. They had an opportunity to beat the Knicks, who ultimately went to the NBA Finals. Scottie was a great player. But without Mike, we saw what happened. They lost in the second round of playoffs. And then the next year when he played for, I want to say 40% of the season, he came back pretty late that year. I think at that point they were sitting as like the number 4 record in the East. If memory serves me correct, the Knicks, the Magic all had better records than the Bulls. So the Bulls were probably 3rd or 4th that year in terms of record. So they weren't looking like a favorite to come out of the East that season either. So without Mike, solid team, good team. Scottie, all-time great player. And as I mentioned, a lot of teams are good enough to win a championship. That's not really saying much. But they didn't win the championship. And Isaiah is still continuing to show that he's sour with Mike because of the dream team and because of the way that Mike has handled their relationship. There's a lot of other dynamics there as well. I've heard Isaiah sound kind of upset by his relationship with Mike because he feels like early on when Mike got to Chicago, he was very friendly with Mike, and not only friendly with Mike, but showed him around the city. That is Isaiah's city. And I think that plays a big factor in why Isaiah looks at Mike the way he does. Mike is more beloved in his own city than he is. Mike, turned into what we consider, if not the greatest player, one of the greatest players of all time in his own city. And let's not forget that Bulls dynasty completely overshadows everything the Pistons did prior, right? Because when we talk dynasties, we always talk about how good the Celtics were. We talk about the Lakers during that time. We forget in between that, the Pistons went to 3 straight NBA finals. They won 2 of them. And then here come the Bulls and they get to 6 of the next 8. And it completely overshadows everything that Isaiah had done as a player and what the Pistons had accomplished. So there is a part of Isaiah that's always going to be a little upset with him. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. We got anything else NBA in here? It looks like a lot of NFL. Ooh. Shout out to Pooh. She said, this for Vern. Now, Vern said he might be joining tonight. I'm waiting for him to hit me up. Let me know what's going on. So I got to show you love for saying Wemby will be maybe a top 10 player last year. You wrong, but this year he can get in that top 10. So great call. Wemby will jump to top 10 for sure. Well, which one is it, Pooh? You said he might jump. He will jump. I think he will jump. And I think at the time, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Pooh, I think a lot of us agreed with Vern in that the future was very bright for Wemby. But in the moment, I thought Vern was jumping out the window. He was trying to say last year to start the season, he would choose Wemby over a lot of other guys who proved this past year that they are legitimate stars and that they are worthy of having a team built around them. I think two of the guys that we continue to debate when Vern made that statement was if he was truly better, if Wemby was truly better than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Luka Doncic. And in Vern's opinion, he felt, yeah, he's better at the start of last year. I was of the belief that he's not better than those guys yet. He will be better than those guys. We expect him to be better than those guys. The sky's the limit for him, but he wasn't better than them last year. Shai Gilgeous was a legitimate MVP candidate. Luka was a legitimate MVP candidate. Luka led his team to the NBA Finals. Wemby isn't doing that yet. So Wemby's on the cusp of doing that. I think he's going to continue to build off the season he had last year and his Olympic experience, but he's not there yet. I think top 10 is a realistic possibility. I don't want to put him there yet because I think this second year, what I love to see in young players is how they handle the expectations. Everybody was excited for Wemby last year, but Wemby had moments early in the season where people wondered, like, is he physically going to be able to hold up? He was getting beat up early in the season last year. Now we got to see if he can deal with the expectations of not only being a franchise, but now every night we expect him to have a good game. There are no more bad nights from Wemby. He cannot have a bad night anymore. It's unacceptable at this point. Let's get to a little bit of football stuff. But before we do, and I was just trying to go down and see if we had any other basketball comments here. But let's get to some football. As always, this is the Sanchez Show. This is the Friday night live edition of the Sanchez Show. Make sure you subscribe over on YouTube and Spotify. Shoot me a like, shoot me a comment. Don't be shy, man. If you don't want to comment here, you can comment over there, and I'll make sure I bring it over to the show. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to Real Fans Real Talk. We will be back in a few days. Shout out to my brother Trip Young. We'll be recapping the week in sports. We're about a week and a half away from the start of the NFL season. So as you guys know, next week, the Friday Night Live brings back 401k pick of the week. We also, well, when I say we, I mean me, really. Will be, like I said, not raffle style, but I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to win tickets to an NBA game of your choice. If you're not near an NBA city, we'll figure that part out, and that's the dynamic I'm trying to work out. So stay tuned next week because I'm going to explain how you guys can enter for a chance to win 2 tickets to an NBA game, courtesy of the Sanchez Show. Ron got one more basketball question in here that just came through, and then we're going to get to some NFL. On Hoopballer Scoop's page, he asks, why can't the WNBA market A'ja Wilson? And he used Candace Parker and asks, why can't she be marketed like Parker? Some say she's too ghetto, which I'll take. It's a great question. That's a great talking piece as well. A'ja Wilson, I mean, we know colorism exists in this country, and that plays a big factor in it. A'ja Wilson is the best player in the league. A'ja Wilson should be marketed better. Candace Parker piece is tricky because Candace came out of college with star power. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's true. The WNBA operates on such a small budget that they try to piggyback off the best players coming out of college. That's why we saw the same thing with Sabrina Ionescu, right? She had a buzz. We've seen it now with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. So the WNBA needs to do a better job. I wonder if their lack of budget and lack of money really is what is holding them back. It makes no sense, though, because A'ja Wilson is a 2-time MVP, 2-time champion. She should be getting the big push from the league. They're going to also have to be creative. This is one of the things I talked about on Real Fans Real Talk. They're going to have to get creative on how they want to market her and push her because it's not a major media capital that she plays in. It's not New York. It's not Chicago. It's not LA. That's another thing that helped Candace Parker a lot, right? They're able to market her in some of these bigger areas, whereas A'ja Wilson is in Vegas right now. And they're going to have to figure out a way to make her a prime time player moving forward. They should be able to. I don't think her being ghetto has much to do with it, because if we want to use that term, there are plenty of athletes who have been labeled as ghetto who have been able to get a marketing push. Angel Reese, by a lot of people's standards, is viewed as ghetto. She's able to get that push, and she's able to get these endorsement deals. So it's a way that it can be done. But the WNBA is going to have to get creative in marketing this young woman and making her the face of the league. And maybe next season, Vegas has to be a primetime game more often. Maybe next season, they've got to push Asia Wilson as the promo for the start of the season. Things like that. Just my thoughts on it, but we'll see how they do. Let's get to some football talk, though, because like I mentioned, we're about a week and a half away. It's going to be a great season. There's going to be a lot of discussion all year. Pooh, shout out to Pooh. This correlates to that too. WNBA jersey sales. Clark, Reese, Sabrina. I mean, Kate Martin is probably the one that's the most shocking. But yeah, again, the first three all came in with a major push from their collegiate career. Right? Two of them are rookies right now. And then Sabrina plays in a major market in New York. Caitlin Clark's the only one out of those two that doesn't play in a major market. But again, because of the push coming out of college, that helped a lot. Rookie quarterback who will have the most wins. On the surface, I got to say Caleb. It's probably the easiest. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be really good this year. I've already said that I think Joe Milton in New England, if he gets to start, could be productive. I don't think Drake May will be that good this year. Most times it's a rookie you don't know, that you weren't expecting, I say. Not that you don't know about, but somebody you weren't expecting. But in this case, I'm going to say Caleb Williams. He's got the most talent around him. He's got the best opportunity to succeed. Also, the division, I mean, Detroit's a really good team. I think Green Bay is good. I don't think they're great. I think Detroit is the best team in the division, and everybody else is kind of a pecking order. So there's an opportunity, as I highlighted a few weeks ago when I broke down that division, that the Bears could make the playoffs. And if they make the playoffs, that means they win 9 games. And so Caleb would be the guy who has the most wins. That's how I think. Most polarizing QB in the NFL right now. Let's see. Who gets talked about the most? Dak. Brock Purdy. I'm thinking about guys who get the most attention both ways, positive and negative. Deshaun Watson. I think those are the three that probably get the most, probably negative and positive comments both ways. Brock Purdy, a lot of people don't feel he's a good quarterback. They feel he's a system quarterback. Others feel like he does exactly what he's supposed to do, and he's a winner. He's been to an NFC Championship game. He's been to a Super Bowl. Dak is probably the most polarizing because he's the guy who gets talked about the most for someone who has not had much team success. He has had a solid NFL career, but he has not had much team success. And so Dak is probably the guy. Outside of those three, I'm trying to think who else. Most polarizing. Outside of those three that I mentioned, Dak, Brock Purdy, Deshaun Watson. Kirk Cousins gets talked about, negative and positive. The contract plays a big part of that. Josh Allen, there's a lot of people that feel Josh Allen is overhyped. So he's one of those. But I think the first three I mentioned are probably the ones. Who is the CD saga hurting more, Cowboys or Lamb? I think it's Cowboys. I don't think it's CD Lamb. CD Lamb has been super productive. This is the point where a receiver would get that next deal. We saw Justin Jefferson get his deal already. So I think CD is well within his rights to say, I want my new deal. For the Cowboys, this hurts them more because they're battling two fronts. They got the quarterback situation going on, and they got the receiver situation going on. And whoever they cave for, whoever they buckle for first, is going to have a major impact on the other one. If they give CD his money first, Dak's going to be like, well, what about me? I want to get paid now. And since you were willing to cave to him, I can really play hardball with you guys until you cave for me, and vice versa. Also, I'm sure CD is paying attention as I talked about Justin Jefferson getting his deal. Even though this guy has an extra year left, he's paying attention to Jamar Chase in Cincinnati, depending on what Jamar gets, because Even though Jamar in some people's eyes may be the better receiver, CD has been more productive, I think, through their time in the league. CD's got the extra year on him. But again, CD has been really good for 4 years for Dallas. They got to pay him. I don't think this is hurting CD's stock at all. I think CD is sitting back and he's watching it play out. He has not threatened that he will sit out this season. He may sit out a game or two. He may play hardball in that way. But all indications and everything I've read is that he's going to be ready to go at the start of the season. And if he plays well, then the Cowboys are really in trouble because now they're going to have to pay even more than they probably would have had to pay if they would have taken care of it right now. So the Cowboys are hurting much more from this. Kyrie. Shout out to Kyrie again. Mahomes changing the game like Curry. Is Patrick the most talented quarterback ever? Man. Woo. I didn't want to jump out the window. I wanted to kind of think about some of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. I would have to say yes, it is Patrick Mahomes. He's changing the game. I don't know if he's changing the game like Curry. What Steph Curry is doing is truly a one-of-one. We've seen other great athletes like Patrick Mahomes who had the arm talent and had the mental capacity to compete at such a high level at the quarterback position, right? Randall Cunningham was a similar style player. We know about Aaron Rodgers. Colin Kaepernick in a shorter window was a similar style player that could move around and make all the big throws. Mahomes has done it at a better level than those guys because he's won Super Bowls. Whereas some of those other guys, Kaepernick, when you look at Kaepernick's prime years, Kaepernick was doing this and then more. There were games where Colin Kaepernick was throwing for 250 and running for another 125. You look back at some of the Kaepernick highlights and what he was doing to defenses and how he was frustrating teams. It was something like the league had never seen at that point, that combination of running and passing. Mahomes is more of a runner, more of a passer than a runner, but his ability to still move around and extend the play is what I'm trying to compare it to. But other guys have had success. They just never had it at the level Patrick Mahomes is having it at. So he's the most talented, but he's not a game changer because I think other guys, we've seen other quarterbacks similar to this. And Caleb Williams is a guy who they're comparing to this as well in terms of playing style and athletic ability. Curry is a one-of-one. Before Stephen Curry hit the league, I always said there were plenty of guys who could shoot. They just were never given the unlimited green light the way Steph Curry was given. Remember, Steph went to a team that had Monte Ellis, and then the Warriors traded away Monte Ellis to make room so Steph could get more shots and control the offense even more. So there were other guys, guards specifically, who could shoot and who could light you up, but they were never given a green light like Steph was. And now Steph is taking it to another level with the way he's won, with the MVPs, with the type of shots he's made. He's got guys in the league attempting 35-foot three-pointers. He's got young kids now going into the gym wanting to practice those specific shots to almost become unguardable, thinking that if I can shoot from this distance, you could never stop me. You could never, there isn't a defense you could ever create for me. So Mahomes is the most talented, but it's not Steph Curry. Like Curry is a one-of-one. We've seen other guys similar to Patrick Mahomes. We will see guys, I think, after Patrick Mahomes as well, who are similar players. Let's see what else we got. And again, I appreciate the comments, guys. Tonight, I'll also, as I try to get through all these comments, like I said, I'm trying to give some time to see, if it's just going to be me. Looks like it's going to be me. It's cool. I appreciate you guys rocking with me, though. I am going to give you guys my AFC and NFC East predictions tonight as well. Every week, if you've tuned in, I've given you a breakdown on each division. We're a couple weeks away, so we're getting to it. Let's see what else we got. What does Herbert have to prove this season? Shout out to Kyrie again. A lot. Point blank period, a lot. There are other quarterbacks who have playoff wins, who have had more success in the league. He got big money. They lost a large portion of their offensive production from last year. Both starting receivers are gone. Jalen Guyton, who's the number 4 receiver, is gone as well. They lose their starting running back from last year. So it's on him to prove that he is the franchise and that he is worth every dollar and that he can be the guy who can ultimately lead them to a Super Bowl down the line. Now, that's not to say he's got to win X amount of games. He's just got to prove he can be a leader and prove that they're headed in the right direction. They've already changed the head coach. This is another offensive coordinator they brought in for him. So the franchise is doing everything they can in their power to help Justin Herbert succeed. Now he's got to prove it on the field and win some games and win some meaningful games. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a Super Bowl, but if he can get 9 or 10 wins, get into the playoffs and win a playoff game, that would be a great season for him. He's a little hurt right now. He's got to get right, but he's got some things to prove because he's supposed to be the franchise there. Should the Cowboys commit to Dak before season? No. So, and a shout out, it's different. This is the Sanchez Show. I do obviously do Real Fans, Real Talk. We do that normally on Sundays and Mondays. I try to give you the Sanchez Show, my perspective on things on Fridays, especially during football season, because as we do the Friday Night Live, I'm not sure if you've seen it in the past, Kevin. Me specifically, but whoever I have with me, whether it's Will Gordon, whether it's Trip Young, whether it's Vernon Brown-Lee, we also pick every game on the schedule for that week. We give you our 401k pick of the week. We give you our upset pick of the week. So it's more football centered on Friday nights, but I go down through every question as well. But I appreciate the support. Should the Cowboys commit to Dak before the season? I think they should have. This is the last thing you want. There's way too much uncertainty with the Cowboys, and I'm going to talk more about them when I give you my NFC East predictions. But right now, the Cowboys are dealing with the uncertainty at quarterback, the uncertainty of their best receiver, and then what some people will consider a lame duck coach and Mike McCarthy. So the last thing you want if you're a team that thinks you're competing or feels that you can compete for a Super Bowl is uncertainty. You want stability. You want as much stability across the board as possible. And the Cowboys are the opposite of that. There is very little stability right now. You got Jerry Jones making statements in the press about CeeDee Lamb's contract. You got Dak Prescott won his contract. You bring in Mike Zimmer as a defensive coordinator, great defensive mind, but then it also creates the questions on, is he next in line to take Mike McCarthy's job if Mike McCarthy struggles? We heard the rumors after last playoff debacle that Mike McCarthy was on his way out. So there's way too much uncertainty right there for the Cowboys. This is one of the things they should have taken care of. They should have took care of their quarterback before the season and made sure there were no issues there. I'm going to get to your other question in a second, Kevin. Let me give Tyson the turn here. Are the playoff expectations for Caleb and Bears unfair? No, I don't think they're unfair. They spent a lot of money this offseason. DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, they draft Rome Odunze. They gave DJ Moore his new contract, and then you draft Caleb Williams number 1. Caleb Williams is a guy who we've heard pretty much since his sophomore year in college was the next coming of Patrick Mahomes, and that he's the next great NFL quarterback. So now that he's here with all the weapons, Justin Fields last year won 7 games and didn't have this much talent. You expect Caleb Williams to have some good moments in the NFL. And also, as I mentioned, outside of Detroit, the division is pretty open. I think Green Bay's better than the Bears, but would I be shocked if the Bears were the second place team and made the wild card? No. So the playoff expectations are not unfair for him. It's a great situation that he's walking into over there. And along those lines, Kevin Carter wants to know, will Daniels challenge Caleb for Offensive Rookie of the Year? He will. He'll be the other quarterback we see who gets the most playing time. He'll have an opportunity. Now, he doesn't have the same weapons. The Commanders are going to struggle far more than the Bears are going to struggle. And if anything, I think a receiver probably challenges Caleb more for Offensive Rookie of the Year than another quarterback, because I don't think Daniel's numbers are going to be on par with Caleb. But and if all goes well and Caleb and those guys win 8 or 9 games and playing for a playoff spot, that makes it even tougher, because I don't see Jaden Daniels in that position. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about the NFC East in a minute. I don't have the Commanders finishing in last place. I think there's another team in that division that's worse than that, but I don't think they're going to be big-time threats either. All right, let's see what else we got. And again, as always, make sure you guys are subscribed to The Sanchez Show, streaming on YouTube and Spotify. We also live on Facebook, live on Twitch, so make sure you lock in with us. Make sure you guys subscribe to Real Fans, Real Talk. We'll be live again this week, giving you a recap on everything in sports. So make sure you guys lock in with us, man. Let's see what else we got. And I'm going to get to the AFC and NFC East in a moment. We got a couple questions. Kevin, you seen the recent pictures? He does. Zion looks like he's in great shape. This is something that we as fans have been asking for quite some time. I'm looking forward to see what he can do this season in terms of staying healthy and production-wise. Because if he truly was out of shape all those years and was still averaging 20 plus a game, then he should be a beast this year. Let's see. Anthony Edwards says Michael Jordan was the only player with skill back in '89. Someone schooled a young man. Absolutely. He's completely incorrect. And we know that. But this is also one of the moments where he was too young to know what was going on back then. See, Anthony Edwards is from this generation that they consumed all the information through YouTube. They consumed everything they know through social media. They have not studied the game or really witnessed it to understand how great the players were at that time. So that's a completely false statement from him. Cowboys' lack of moves concerning. Yeah, because this is a team that, again, has had some playoff flameouts the last couple of years, and you would think they would have been a little more aggressive this year, but also the contract issues are what's stopping them from being more aggressive. Tyson, more confident or concerned about Eagles? I am confident in the Eagles. As I mentioned, we're going to get to the NFC East. Tyson, I see you got another question. I'm going to bring that up, though. I'm going to bring it up a little later since we're talking football, and I'll get to this statement correlates with something else I was going to bring up tonight, and then I'll circle back. I won't forget. But I'm confident in the Eagles to win the NFC East. And since we're on that topic, I'm going to get into that prediction for that division. I'm concerned about the relationship between their head coach and their quarterback. It's already been publicized that last year there was some friction in that locker room. We all wondered why they collapsed the way they did. Then we hear that Jalen Hurts reaches out to the Giants defensive coordinator after the last game of the season to kind of evaluate his game, which to me made absolutely no sense because you should have been meeting with your head coach to figure out what the issues were on offense when you look completely disgusting with an opportunity to win the division in the last game of the season. And then they go to Tampa and they lose in that first playoff game. So there are some issues there that I'm concerned with. As a team, they're going to win the division. And as I look at the NFC East, they've got the 9th easiest schedule. They've got the most talent from top to bottom. They just added another receiver. Obviously, we know Saquon's there. They're going to win this division, and I expect the Eagles to win anywhere from 10 to 11 games. So I think it's going to be business as usual on that end. But their head coach quarterback situation, I think, needs to be repaired, at least from what I saw last year. But yeah, I got the Eagles winning this division. I got the Eagles going anywhere from 10 to 11 wins and winning the NFC East again. Right now, this is where it gets tricky for me in second place because I think the Commanders have an opportunity to play for second place in this division. I don't think the Cowboys are strong. As I mentioned, there's a lot of instability there. I would not be surprised if the Cowboys come out early in the season and struggle. For me, the Cowboys, who have the 11th toughest schedule in the NFL, I got them right now winning 8 to 9 games and missing the playoffs. If you guys have tuned in previous weeks, I said in the NFC South, only one team is coming out of there. It's the division winner, and in my opinion, I think it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons. In the North, though, I think 3 teams could make it. And as I said, we talked about Caleb Williams, and I talked about this with the North before. If the Bears get off to a strong start, I could see the Bears winning 9 games and making the playoffs. I think Detroit's going to make the playoffs. I think Green Bay is going to make the playoffs. So I think there's a legitimate chance that 3 teams in that division make it. So if 3 teams are going to make it there and 1 team in the South, that only leaves 3 spots for the next 2 divisions. When we get into the West next week, you're going to hear, I think 2 teams out of the West are making the playoffs, which means that only 1 is making it out of the East. And I think that's the Eagles. I think the Eagles are the only team that are going to make the playoff spot out of the NFC East. I think the Cowboys win somewhere from 8 to 9 games and miss the playoffs this year and really put themselves in a tough spot this offseason to negotiate the new contracts with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I think the Commanders can win anywhere from 7 to 9 games. It's not a tough schedule. It's the 13th easiest schedule. I also think they're going to get fatter within their division because I think the Giants are a really bad team. I don't think the Cowboys are that good. So I think the Commanders will have some opportunities to win some easy divisional games or winnable divisional games, I say. There's no easy ones. And then to me, the Giants are a last place team. And I think the Giants are trying to move in the right direction. Them making the playoffs 2 seasons ago was a gift and a curse because it kind of gave them fool's gold. They know Daniel Jones isn't a good quarterback. but they had to give him the new money. And then it affected them being able to bring Saquon back. They upgraded their offensive line. I like Malik Neighbors. I like what they're doing on their defense, but their quarterback is not good. And so I think they're going to struggle this year. And I would not be surprised if Brian Daboll kind of moves on from Daniel Jones after 2 or 3 weeks. The frustration level was there. You could see it. Somebody commented last week about Daniel Jones throwing 2 interceptions in a preseason game. And I said then jokingly, he's in midseason form. This is who Daniel Jones is. He struggles. He struggles with turnovers. He struggles to hold on to the ball. So this Giant season is not going to be a good one. If you're a Giant fan, there's going to be moments you're going to like some of the players you got, but your quarterback isn't that good. So I think the Giants are last place team. Again, the way I see it, Eagles win the division. Dallas misses the playoffs, probably win 8 to 9 games. I think the Commanders have a chance to win anywhere from 7 to 9 games and be the third place team. I think the Giants will be a last place team with about 6 wins. That's how I see it playing out. Let me know what you guys think in regards to that division, though, the NFC East, man. Again, make sure you follow me across all social media platforms. Shoot me a like, shoot me a comment. Make sure you subscribe to The Sanchez Show. We're live every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Next week is the final Friday Night Live before the actual start of the season. So not only will I be breaking down the AFC and NFC West, but I'll also be giving you the 401k pick of the week and the upset pick of the week for week 1. So it's an exciting time. We got a lot to get into. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to Real Fans Real Talk. Shout out to my brother Trip Young. Like I said, we'll be back in a couple days. Let's see what we got. We got to go AFC East, right? Let me see if we got any other questions before we get AFC East. Let's see. All right. Let's get to the AFC East. And then, Tyson, I will get to your question if we don't have anything else that comes through. Let's see. AFC East. This is where it gets a little tricky. There's a lot of people that want to know what's going on. And actually, since we are talking to AFC East, there was a question up here regarding the Jets. Where we at? Right here. Miguel wanted to know, is playing Rodgers in preseason worth the risk? No, it's not. Now, you want him to get some type of rhythm with his receivers. You want him to stay fresh. But it's not worth it. He's a veteran. He knows what he got to do to get himself ready for the games. That's what you use practice for. He can work out the kinks with his receivers there. Preseason, we're not running a risk. We need Aaron Rodgers. There's too much on the line for the Jets. When I say we, I mean in the Jets. I don't mean me. I'm not a Jets fan. But AFC East, this is a tough division to pick because unlike the NFC East, this division has potential for multiple teams to make the playoffs. When we did the AFC South a couple weeks ago, I said the Texans are probably going to win the division. The Colts could be a fringe playoff team. That was my prediction, depending on Anthony Richardson. When we did the North, I have 2 playoff teams coming out of the North. I got the Bengals and the Ravens as the 2 playoff teams. And I gave the breakdown. You can go back and check that. With the East, you got 2, maybe 3. It's going to get tricky. I'll go worst to first because we know who the worst team in the division is. That's the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots somehow, they were a last place team last year. They had the 3rd overall pick, and they still got the 2nd toughest schedule in the NFL this year. So it doesn't bode well for them. I think they probably only win about 5 games this year. Whether it's May or Milton, who's starting a quarterback for them, it's a bad team. They don't have many weapons. They just traded one of their best defensive players in Matthew Judon. They got a good young running back, but other than that, there ain't much there. So I think a 5-win season for rookie head coach Gerard Mayo is in the works. They're a last place team. After that, though, it is completely up for grabs. For me, the 3rd place team in this division, I had to analyze it based off talent on the roster, based off the head coach, and then also the strength of schedule. What type of competition are you playing against week in, week out? To me, the Buffalo Bills are a 3rd place team. The Buffalo Bills got the 10th toughest schedule in the league this year. We know about the departures on offense, but they're also missing both their starting safeties from last year. That secondary is at a major overhaul. They still have struggled to find pass rushers to consistently get to the quarterback. With that strength of schedule, with the lack of weapons, I think Josh Allen will have moments where he will remind everyone why he's a Pro Bowl quarterback and why in the past he was MVP conversations, but they don't have enough talent to keep up with the other two teams in this division that I think are going to be better than them. So for me, the Buffalo Bills are probably going to win 8 games, but be a third place team. Keep in mind, like I said, I think 2, maybe 3 teams from this division make the playoffs. But I don't think if the third team happens to be Buffalo, so be it. I just don't think they will make it. So to me, the second place team is the Miami Dolphins. Mike McDaniels is solid head coach. I don't think he's a great head coach. But other than that, I think talent-wise, they're not as good as the Jets. I think the Jet defense is legitimate. That's why I have the Jets as the team to win this division. I think top to bottom, I just like the Jets team overall. I like their quarterback situation better. Yeah, you might like the Dolphins receivers better, but I like the O-line and the running game with the Jets better. So to me, the Dolphins are a second place team that's probably going to win 9 games. We know what the Dolphins are, though. They're going to look good early in the season. They're going to rack up a lot of points. And the moment the weather starts to change, they're going to struggle. That's been who they've been this whole time under Mike McDaniels. Nothing has really changed. I don't think it will change this year. I think they get off to a hot start. They slow down in the second half of the season. For me, I think it's the opposite with the Jets. I think the Jets early on, they may struggle a little bit early on as Aaron Rodgers works his way back in. But once they get rolling, I think they're going to be very tough to beat. The defense is legit. I'm not a fan of Robert Saleh, but I like everything else there. I like the defense. I like the offense. I like the O-line, the D-line, the running game. And Aaron Rodgers, to me, if we're ranking quarterbacks within the division, he's probably the second best quarterback behind Josh Allen. But he's got the best talent overall out of everybody else. So I think the Jets win 10 games and win this division. The Jets will make the playoffs. I think the Dolphins make the playoffs. The Bills are possible. This was spades, they're possible. That's my thoughts on it. AFC and NFC East. Keep in mind, guys, next week I will be doing the West of the NFC and AFC. Make sure you subscribe to the Sanchez Show. Make sure you're locked in next week, guys. As I mentioned, I'm putting together a giveaway. 2 tickets to an NBA game of your choice. We're still working out the kinks because, as I mentioned, if you're in a city that does not have an NBA team, I don't know where everybody's located, but if you're in a city that does not have an NBA team, then I'm going to work with you to try to figure out how we can compensate you for winning the competition. But if you are close enough and you want the tickets, we'll make that happen as well. So next week, I'll put that together, and then we'll put together the accurate timeline of whatever steps you need to take so you can win those tickets. So make sure you subscribe and are locked into the Sanchez Show. Make sure you subscribe to Real Fans Real Talk. Shout out to my brother Trip Young. See him in a couple of days as we go live. And hope you guys enjoy your weekend, man. It's a great one. We're getting towards the end of the summer, so you guys be safe out there. As always, I'm your host, Eric Sanchez, a.k.a. Legend of 2 Games. This was the Friday Night Live as part of the Sanchez Show. And I will see you guys next week. I'm out of here.